Things are slowing down around here. I still have a lot to finish up, but why not do another Q&A? Because those are always a whole lot of fun, and it's a good way to interact more directly with you guys, other than me just speaking into a void and never hearing back. Finally got a haircut. Ooh, a barber knows what he's doing on the beard. I posted these on Instagram, on the Patreon, on the community page here on YouTube, so follow all those places if you are interested. And I'm going to try to go down them in the order that I see them. Emery Carroll Drums asks a go-to cheap and easy stored solution to deaden a room for drums specifically. If we're not talking soundproofing, if we're just talking like how to reduce reflections in a space, my mind would go to anytime making your own panels with Ruxel or whatever you have around your local hardware stores. Another way, if we're just going as hacky as possible here, and literally easy storage, they are meant for storage blankets. I can get them here at my local Lowe's. I think Home Depot sells them. I think just about anywhere sells them. They're literally just heavyweight blankets. Now they're not gonna do much for like sound treatment, but if you're just trying to reduce reflections in a space, if you can hang them and kind of get them to absorb some mechanical energy, that might be a good way, and they will literally fold up and store because they're just blankets. If you want to get like even more hacky with this, there for a while weighted blankets were pretty popular. If this is gross, don't do it, but if you can go to Goodwill or even peruse like Facebook Marketplace or something like that and find weighted blankets that people don't want anymore. You could wash them, sterilize them, whatever you need to do. But that would be an easy way to get a ton of mass that literally just folds up. Now it's going to be heavy. Anything you're going to do is going to be heavy. To deaden something, you need to absorb, and that requires mass. That's probably the easiest, cheapest, most storage-friendly way to do it. What's your favorite unconventional drum mic situation? Jonah Lane music. Dude, this guy has a killer song out. I'm gonna try to remember to post it. Go check this guy out. Killer producer, killer guitar player. Just a good dude. Unconventional drum mic situation. I feel like I'm pretty standard. I guess one thing that I talk about in a whole lot of videos is like around here, my vestibule mic. Now, if I'm recording in another space, I will try to throw up kind of like a junk mic, a trash mic. Something that really seems like a bad choice. Like just set a 57 on the ground. That's your trash mic. The Shure Bullets, if you literally put them face down, like just outside like the space between the kick drum and the snare, that's a killer sound. If you're working in a smaller room, putting a mic behind something, I guess that's not really unconventional, but that's about as weird as I could think. I mean, sometimes you have those like weird experimental things on like a session per session basis, but of the things that I do all of the time, I don't think they're unconventional, but using bad mics in weird places often makes for like really good results. As for my vestibule, I'm never gonna put expensive mics out there. That room is weird, it's splashy, it sounds really disgusting, so I'm gonna put really cheap mics in there because that's what I'm trying to go for. So I guess in that way it might be unconventional. I don't know. That's as good as I can think. How different does BAE sound from SPX, DPX versions? I need a Neve style pre. This might be a little bit of an unpopular opinion, and again, running my BAE stuff is vintage. It's back when it was Brent Averill Enterprises. The ones that I have were actually pulled out of Neve desks, so they are Neve preamps from old desks. They're not recreations. Now BAE is going to be like a replica or a clone of that circuit. And this might be an unpopular opinion, but I feel like if you like the Neve thing, there's like certain characteristics there. There's that blooming bottom end with a kind of a saturated top, but the whole idea is that you can push that circuit if you want to. I feel like a lot of people want to reach for Neve, but they don't want that aggression. They kind of use them as clean preamps, or they try to, like using that master all the way up and keeping the gain on the amp itself pretty low, so you're not getting that breakup. That's missing a big part of what makes that circuit cool. I think one of the most well-rounded and most cloney things that I use, honestly, are the Vintech 573 circuits, or the X81s. Those are really, really good. Vintech does some really cool stuff. The 573s, actually, I like the bottom end on those better than my vintage ones. It's a totally different thing. They just do a really, really cool thing, and they're relatively affordable. So if you want a Neve style thing and you don't need an EQ, the Vintech 573. If you want the full like channel strip thing, look at their like X series rack mount stuff, because you can power more than one with each power supply, so the cost of buying gets lower the more you do it. So it's cheaper than going a vintage route nowadays. But what I will say, I don't really like the new ones. They're great preamps. Let me preface this with a very like grain of salt moment here. If you like the vintage thing, that's gonna be really hard to replace with like a newer take on that circuit, because it hasn't aged. Are they gonna age the same? Maybe, I don't know. There's certain components that are just really hard to find now for these things. So kind of the grossness of that circuit is what is appealing about it, if that makes any sense. So I have a love-hate relationship with them, but if you're going for a modern take, I would look at Vintech or even some of the cheaper versions of it. I love that desk idea. I'm always standing when recording. I think you're talking about my sit-stand desk. I love that. If that's a move, it's a cheap way to do it, especially if your gear is racked, not in whatever you're using as a desk. You can check that out. Just get it on Amazon. It's literally like a nurse's station. It's fantastic. If you could own only 3 pieces of 500 series gear, which would you choose? Oh, that's a good one. Cappy, probably. My VP28s, I love them. I really want to check out Cappy's hider circuits, but the VP28s are I really like that. And they're very cheap if you can solder. Vintech 573s, if you're gonna have something on your 2-bus, I like to push through preamps. Right now, I'm actually using those 573s like on a mastering chain. I love it. Also, Wes Audio stuff, like their compressors and EQs. I have the NG tube. There's a video coming on that. It's absolutely blown my mind. It kind of had me rethink my whole approach to how I didn't think I was an outboard EQ guy. It's completely blown my mind. But the workflow of having like total recall on outboard stuff is fantastic. So I would take a look at Wes. Like if I had nothing else, I would probably get a Cappy VP28, a Vintech 573, because that covers the API thing, covers the Neve thing, and then I would probably get like a 2-bus compressor from Wes Audio, 500 series racket. Boom. Would you recommend the Presonus Quantum HD for home recording? Absolutely. I mean, if you have a need for I/O, it's great. I mean, I know I made the video about it, and this might be a weird thing to talk about. I mean, I was paid to make that video, right? I say that in videos where I'm getting paid to talk about something. But with that, it's not like, and maybe this is pulling the veil back a little too much, but it's not like somebody's giving you a bunch of money and saying, go say something good about the company. Often what happens is you get the gear to try, and then if you dig it and you want to move forward with it, then the cost comes into play, and that's covering the cost of a video. Now, I come out almost even at the end of this. Like, yeah, I get gear, but there's also the cost of like paying an editor to do this, having people here who need to be here to make the video. So it's kind of like balancing out and getting the ability to have fun, or paying for the cost of a band to be here to record. There is always that weird, like, can you trust those videos? I mean, I think about it too when I watch other YouTube videos, but I mean, honestly, I don't make videos on stuff I don't like, and I have sent stuff back. All that to say, in that video, I really gushed over that unit, and it's because I really like it. It's still racked up in my mobile rig. It honestly sounds really good, and it's very flexible for its price point. It's kind of still blows my mind a little bit. But yeah, I highly recommend it. Didn't your mother tell you not to put your feet on your furniture? So you, okay, the picture I put on Instagram, I had my foot up on the gear. No, I moved out of my mom's house at least 2 weeks ago. So I'm on my own now. She can't tell me what to do. Matthew Assen Music. Oh gosh. Outboard gear progression. What order to invest for a production / mixing setup? Actually, this goes hand in hand with the next question. Because CJ Lucas asks, CJ, hey man, how you doing? CJ asks the first piece of outboard gear that everyone should start with. So these kind of go hand in hand. All right. So I have fallen in love with outboard EQ, but I kind of think that maybe the first move is going to be a compressor, and not any compressor. I made a video about this a long time ago, and I would think the first one you should get is a distressor, because it can teach you so many things about compression, about saturation, about using that box in tonal aspects. And it's a really, really good front end mixer. It's a good like hardware insert mixer, compressor. You know what I mean? I would probably say that'd be the first piece of outboard because they're ubiquitous. They're everywhere. Used prices on them are definitely more expensive compared to other used items because they tend to hold their value. But if you're patient, you can typically get a pretty good deal on them. And what I will say, you don't need the X version, the EL8X. That's more expensive because everybody thinks they want the Brit mode. I don't have one and I don't really miss it. There's like, you find a few things that are favorites on a box like that and you just stick to them. And for me, it's like, I'll either use it kind of like an LA2A or kind of like an 1176. And it's serving the purposes on the front end for tracking, either on drums or anytime there's a vocal, I'm recording that through the vocal. It's every single time. It's never not on a vocal that I'm recording. In the mix, it's killer on kicks, it's killer on bass. It's a very useful box because it can do a whole lot of things. Where if I was going to say just buy an 1176, like 1176s are great, but you're only going to learn that one piece of it. This will kind of teach you, what do you like in attack settings? What do you like in release settings? What do you like and how hard do you want to hit that circuit? Because there is a hefty amount of saturation in that box. And I have been stung by it a few times. So it'll teach you a lot about recording. I would start there. And then to go back to the other question, what's the next progression here? I would maybe if you have all your other bases covered as far as like preamps and all that other stuff, I would take a look at getting a channel strip for something, because that will teach you what do you like the sound of going in and how close can you get it to a finished product. And then once you start to see that, then you're starting to move fast, and then maybe follow it down with, let's get our 2-bus situation figured out, whatever that means for you. I have my gear that I have used and I've put videos out on, and you can go check those out if you want to. That's a very like taste thing. How do you like to set up your 2-bus? How do you like to work? How do you like to push into it? And then definitely some form of EQ. If it's the 2-bus, great. It's an expensive way to go, but holy moly, it changes the game. Do you ever sit down while tracking? Rarely, honestly. Since I've gotten the sit-stand desk, I very rarely sit down. I'm just kind of like I move around when I think. Anytime I'm on the phone, I pace. And I kind of do the same thing during a tracking session. I'm always like, I focus on the desk, and when I'm getting sounds, I'm in the sweet spot. But for the rest of the day, for like the rest of 6 to 8 hour day, I'm like moving around. So I don't really sit unless I'm just not feeling good or something, but it's very rare that I'm using my chair in there. And honestly, for that matter, it's pretty rare that I do it during mixing. Like if I'm doing some really surgical stuff and really focusing, mastering, I sit down. But everything else, I pretty much stand up the whole time. Berg on the run. Calvin, is Monster Energy an official sponsor? Okay, dude, you're one of my best friends. You should know you have never seen a Monster Energy can in my hand, ever. I drink Celsius, my bud. Come on, what are you doing? It's the second Monster joke you made. Unacceptable. So Joe J Tunes asks on YouTube, tips for starting a brand new home recording studio from scratch. And I asked, like, what general piece of the puzzle are we talking about? He responded with, I have gear and some knowledge, hoping to learn how to find clients. Finding clients is a much longer conversation than what's going to happen. I feel like this may not be an answer you want to hear, but when you're getting started, you have to offer more than what you're worth. There has to be a value proposition there for the people coming to you. Like if you set your prices competitively what's around you, honestly, there's very little incentive for anybody to try you out. You can go that way. You can do that and stuff will come. If you really want to get off the ground, either doing your own work and putting it out, like recording for yourself, putting that out, doing some stuff for your friends who are really good musicians. Like, this is the time when you really have to put your best foot forward. So if you can find someone who's a really good musician, maybe they'll pay you under what you would typically ask, but if you can knock a project out of the park, and it's way easier when the artist is good and when the song is good and when the players are good. So if you can maybe do some favors by not charging as much and getting somebody really good, or at least the best you can get, to get in your studio and record something, that's gonna make a world of difference in the end, because you have something really, really good to show for it. Because if you immediately come out of the gate start charging, and if you're charging a little bit less than like your competition around you, you're gonna get kind of the lower tier clients coming to you initially. So it's gonna be harder to build up that client base. And that might be exactly what you want, because if you're not super confident in your abilities, which I was not when I first started, so I did go for the lower tier clients because I wanted to like learn and figure this market out while I didn't have a whole lot of eyes on me, and that worked for me. That may not work for you. The other piece of this is whoever you're working with, like, treat them like gold. Genuinely take interest in your clients, because word of mouth is the most powerful thing that's going to drive your business, and it can happen in a positive way or it can happen in a negative way. And the way you treat every single client has so much bearing on that reputation that you have surrounding you, because inevitably you're going to have one or two or three, or at this point a few for me, people you just did not get along with. It can get pretty dirty. It can get pretty weird. If you've built up this reputation among all these other individuals that when they start going around talking crap, nobody believes them, because that's just not who you are. Guard your reputation and be genuine about it. You don't want to fake being a nice guy. Just be a nice guy. Be a nice person. Be a nice human. If you guys like this style of video, or you want more Q&As, pop questions down below. I mean, we might follow this up with another one. I always like doing these where there's any amount of interaction I can have with you guys, and this feels like an easy way to kind of answer questions that may get blown past in other videos. So if you dig it, hit the like button. If you don't, send it to your enemies, because I'm sure they will hate it too. I'm Resident Loser Jeremy, and if I don't see you before, have a Merry Christmas.